And the conversation continues. I'm Adrienne Lawrence, and now I am joined by award-winning historian and author of the new book, Until I Am Free, Fannie Lou Hamer's enduring message to America, Keisha Blain. Thanks for joining us, Keisha.
Thanks so much for having me.
So, what inspired you to write this book?
Well, I have been inspired by Fannie Lou Hamer for a very long time. I first learned about Hamer as a senior in college, and since then I've been thinking about her life, her words, and I think over the last couple of years, particularly with the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement, I thought it was important to return to Hamer's story so that we can really begin to think through how her ideas are relevant for this current moment.
And for a lot of people who are not familiar with Hamer and her journey and the impact she has, can you please educate our viewers on why this woman is so pivotal?
Well, Fannie Lou Hamer was a civil rights activist, and in fact, she was a human rights activist. It's impossible to talk about Black voting rights in the United States without centering Hamer's story. She was one of the key individuals who laid the groundwork for the passage of the Voting Rights Act in 1965, and I think most people who have ever heard of Hamer know about her in the context of 1964 when she gave a courageous speech at the Democratic National Convention.
And I'm sure that speech resonated, as has all of her efforts and work. And so when it comes to your book, is there something about it that you really feel is going to be incredibly impactful for readers?
Well, one of the things that I did in the book was I connected Hamer's story to the current moment. And so I draw parallels, for example, to Sandra Bland. I spoke about how Hamer similarly encountered state-sanctioned violence. I draw connections to some of the challenges as it pertains to the Me Too movement, or even the ongoing struggle, as we address poverty in the United States. So I think people will find the book useful because it gets them to draw the connections themselves and see how much Hamer's fight continues and how much we can learn from her.
And when it comes to these, these movements that she led and all of the interactions she was involved in that were so game changing, what do you think that we could learn from her without, of course, giving away too much for those prospective readers out there?
Well, I think it actually goes back to the title of the book. One of the things that Hamer said often was nobody's free until everybody's free. Or sometimes she would say it a different way. She would say, whether you are Black or white, you are not free until I am free. And I wanted to use that title for the book because I think it encapsulates this broader vision that is so relevant today. We have to see ourselves as connected to one another. Certainly in the context of the US, we have to see ourselves connected as citizens of the US. But even more broadly, as humans, right? We have to think of the way that our lives are intertwined. And despite our differences, it's important, I think, for us to work together to make sure that we can all not only live in this nation, but particularly that we can all thrive in this nation. So Hamer's message of unity is really a powerful one, and just it gets us to think about the other person far more than we think of ourselves.
Yeah, I would definitely say that's something we need more of nowadays, especially as we're seeing with the coronavirus and trying to get people to get vaccinated, so on and so forth. But yes, exercising some self-awareness as in addition to regard for those around us is very important. And so as you being an award-winning historian and essentially having this background of knowing how to research and dive in, where did you start when you said, hey, I want to find out more information about Hamer and her journey?
Well, I'm so glad that there are, in fact, several collections. So I was able to rely on two collections in particular of Hamer's writings, personal letters that she would write to activists in the 1960s and 70s. I was able to draw upon those, but also I made good use of interviews. I interviewed folks who knew Hamer, who worked with Hamer. I also used historical newspapers. I tried to pull together an array of sources in order to tell her story. And I have to say too that I'm indebted to a number of scholars who have also written on Hamer. I was able to reach out to them and they provided support along the way. And so it really was a community effort if you think about it that way.
It sounds like it, and I guess it goes perfectly hand in hand with Hamer's essentially push that we all be interconnected. and really reach out to one another. So it definitely sounds like you are putting her legacy into action. And as you really kind of dive in, I guess, what would you say is the legacy that she has left behind?
Well, one of the things that really stands out to me with Hamer is what I describe in the book as her radical honesty. She's someone who really spoke truth to power. I know we say it often, but when you look at Hamer's life, she did not mince words. She would tell you like it was. In fact, it was one of her favorite sayings. You know, she would say that she was committed to telling it like it is. And she did that. It was certainly on display at the DNC in 1964 when she spoke passionately. And I think about her, and as I reflect on just the importance of public testimony, the importance of telling your stories, despite even, if it's a painful story, but being able to shed the light on what you've gone through as an individual. What Hamer revealed is that it wasn't just about her. When she spoke about the violence that she endured, she wasn't just talking about what she endured, she was talking about what so many other Black people endured in the state of Mississippi and across the South. And so this idea of public testimony, I think, is such a significant political strategy, which remain relevant to this very day.
If Hamer were here today, what do you think she would have to say, or what do you think she'd focus on the most when it comes to addressing the issues that we're grappling with?
Well, I think she would be very concerned about voter suppression in particular. I think that she would be concerned about the attacks on the Voting Rights Act. She would want all Americans to stand up and to do something. And she would say this often. She would say, don't sit around and wait. God is not going to simply put it on your lap. You have to do something. And so she would call out the injustices, and she would ask people to not sit on the sidelines, not simply be spectators, but join the effort, join the struggle to make this nation better.
Yes, that is definitely something that I can appreciate, and I know a lot of viewers out there as well. And so when it comes to your book, are you essentially taking advantage of the fact that some COVID restrictions have been lifted? Are you getting out there, city tour? How are you getting the message out?
Well, I have actually had a virtual tour. And so, one of the, I think, benefits of the virtual tour is that so many people who otherwise might not have been able to travel to a particular city to see me have been able to hear. And they've been able to listen to me from the comfort of their homes. And so it's bittersweet. It's always great to be able to come face to face with folks. But at the same time, I think it's wonderful that the virtual space has made it possible for so many people to tune in.
Indeed, it has. And I know it's a whole new world out there, especially we're in this virtual space. And something I would love to hear about in terms of your research and writing, were there, maybe if you're comfortable saying, any stories that you maybe didn't include in your book, but you thought were so incredibly enlivening, interesting, or maybe even shocking as it concerned Hamer?
No, I tried my best to pack as much information as possible, but I will say that one of the things that I wrote about in the book was a little bit about Hamer's social life, and I wish I had said a lot more about it, because one of the things that I discussed is that Hamer loved to dance. And she would go out whenever she had a chance. She would go out with her husband, Pap, and they would just dance, and they love to be around young people. They love to go out whenever they could. And I just think it would have been wonderful to shed more light on that. I'm certainly glad that I spoke a bit about it, but I would have loved to share more details about her social life so people could get a really good sense of the moments of joy in her life.
Yeah, it sounds like she was a very well-rounded person and did enjoy living and wanted everyone else to have the opportunity to fully live as human beings, as citizens. And I definitely can't hate on that. And so when individuals are looking to learn more about your book, or maybe during this holiday season to pick up your book for family member or friends, what is it that you want them to bear in mind in terms of how the book can really be impactful for their lives?
Well, what's so great about the book, I think, is I tried to write the book in a very accessible way. And that's great because it means that folks who are trying to decide who they'll share the book with, quite frankly, you can share it with the young people in your life. You can share it with so many individuals. I think even at the high school level, at the college level, I think people will be able to take away something powerful in the book. I think it's certainly a book that will inspire anyone who reads it.
It definitely sounds like it will be very inspiring. And so in terms of where we're going with Until I Am Free, Fannie Lou Hamer's enduring message to America. If people want to catch you on your book tour, what is the next stop?
On November the 30th, I'm having an event at Harvard at the Carr Center for Human Rights Policy, and I'll be in conversation with one of my mentors, who's just an amazing historian, Khalil Mohammed, and we're going to talk about this book. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
That sounds excellent. And can any of the viewers sign up, or is this an in-person affair?
It's virtual and it's open to everyone. So you're welcome to join us. You're also welcome to ask questions and participate in the conversation.
Wonderful. And if they're looking to pick up your book, Until I Am Free, Fannie Lou Hamer's enduring message to America, where can they find that?
Well, the book is available everywhere books are sold. The book was published by Beacon Press, and so you can access it directly from their site, but it's also available at every major retailer.
Wonderful. And do you have a website?
Yes, you can find me at KeishaBlain.com, and that's Blain without an E.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us, Keisha. That's Keisha Blain, award-winning historian and author of the new book, Until I Am Free, Fannie Lou Hamer's enduring message to America. Thank you so much for joining us, Keisha, and we're super excited to read your book and also to see you continue to succeed.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.